Welcome, everybody, to the Black and White History Podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe. And we are your hosts, Christian, and I'm joined with...
A lot of guys don't like Spain, and they blew up my ship, allegedly, of course. I'm Jordan.
Yes, we will be talking about Spain. But
Tangentially, it's like
more importantly,
it's a side character.
yeah,
It's a side quest.
it's the plot line.
The Spanish-American War is a side quest to American imperial hegemony. Hegemony? Hegemony.
I believe whichever one you decide, but yes.
Being the toughest weenie on the beach.
Yeah, no, this is William McKinley.
Mm-hmm.
This is where we go from, I guess, just little engine that could to global superpower.
To non-nuclear global superpower.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Well, I guess we'll get to our final form once we get to FDR, but or Truman.
It's even my final form. Yeah. I don't even have the sun.
But yeah, in case anyone's been following us, going through the whole track list of every president and war that we've been in, basically.
Yeah, we're in the 19th century. We're in the 19th century EP.
Yeah,
kind of mid.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we've been in the. I mean, that's right. This is the last president of the 19th century.
Yep.
Okay,
It's
been a long.
It's been a long
Yeah.
century. There's been wars and rumors of wars, and Abraham Lincoln, Ulysses S. Grant, Uncle Jumbo,
Yeah,
the first non-consecutive presidential term.
everyone has to know that about him.
You have to make sure you know that about Grover Cleveland. But that's not who we're talking about.
No, we're
today.
not talking about Grover Cleveland. He's old news now.
He's
Now
old
we
news.
got-
New hotness, Billy Mack.
Yeah, we're back to the Ohio regiment of presidents.
The Buckeye Boys.
Yeah.
They're back in town.
No, I think I am a pretty decently solid fan of McKinley.
Yeah, I like Billy Mack.
I feel like maybe it's just because Teddy was after him, completely overshadowed his whole presidency.
Yeah.
But I think he definitely deserves a little bit more love than he gets.
Yeah, he's like one of those, it seems like he's just a genuinely nice guy who became president and then left and
Or died.
yeah.
Or was killed.
he left under auspicious circumstances. But yeah, he seemed like a good guy, and we'll get more into it, but he did a good job. I think you're right. He doesn't get as much love as he should, because he is bookended by Lincoln and then Teddy Roosevelt.
right.
So they're like, and then Pierce and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. We got Lincoln and then just a kind of, maybe sort of Grant, but then it's just kind of just like a random hodgepodge of different guys. And like, if you're not a big history buff, they're just, I call them flyover presidents.
Yes.
You just
You got-
move on to
You got
the next big one.
You got Johnson, you got a slave guy, you got Ulysses.
Well, however, though, I mean, our Rutherford B. Hayes video is like one of our most
Yeah,
watched videos for some
they
reason.
really like
so-
that one. We'll do a deeper dive on it. We won't do that. It was hard enough to talk for as long as we did about Rutherford B. Hayes. We're not going back. We're only going forward. We've got World War I to get to.
Yes.
We don't have time to go back and talk about Ruth Hayes.
Yeah. Well, here, let's get into it then. So, McKinley, this is our last, like I said, Ohio president. This is a big, Rutherford, Harrison, Grant, McKinley. Later on will be Warren G. Harding. Am I missing anyone?
I don't think so.
Oh, James Garfield.
Yes.
So something about Ohio, something's in the water.
Yeah.
Where they get people to rule an empire.
I mean, what else is there to do in Ohio? You can be a corn farmer or you can be president. That's about it.
But yeah, so he from Ohio and the last Civil War veteran that we'll have as president.
Which, a note on his Civil War service, apparently he was a bit of a war hero, apparently. Just was like a courier or like a letter carrier.
Yeah, he was
or
like a supply guy that...
I've got your letters, Mr. General. Oh, here's your stamps.
Yeah.
So, hey, good on him. If you got a job, do it well. Even if a flaming cannonball is coming towards your head, you're delivering that mail.
Mama needs to know if you're safe.
Mama needs to know, and spoiler, you're not. You died of dysentery.
Yeah.
You got the gout and died in Kentucky. Sorry, Mama.
Yeah, a little fun fact. He was with Rutherford B. Hayes in the same cavalry year.
Yeah, he was his, Hayes was his commanding officer, and kind of later on became his political mentor, more or less.
Yeah, and then he was originally real strong religious convictions on him. He was going to be a Methodist minister at first, and then ended up kind of getting swept in with politics and everything. So kind of see it's kind of an interesting, kind of humble background.
Yeah.
I guess nothing really crazy one way or the other, but just seemed just like a good dude.
Yeah.
Who then turned us into a global empire.
Kind of on accident.
Yeah.
Kind of on accident. And we'll get into it. But he didn't really want to get into a big war. He didn't want to do any massive empire building. He really just wanted to stabilize and prosper the country. And everyone has ideas on how to do that and what the best like fiscal policy, tariffs, not tariffs, gold or silver, blah, 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 blah. But the good thing about elections is that you get a pulse from the people and they say, yeah. So, but there's stuff that happens before that.
Sure. Yeah. So, he serves as governor of Ohio before president, and then he's married to Ida Saxton, who we'll talk a little bit about her later. But he has 2 daughters that end up dying. One is a child, and one is a baby. And so their marriage is pretty. Well, she had some health issues.
Yeah, she had like an accident, and then I don't know if she had issues before, but I know definitely like she had an accident and like hit her head, and then would get headaches and like seizures and such. Plus, then losing both of your kids.
That'll do it.
That'll do it. Yeah, you take away my kids and hit me in the head with a tack hammer, I'm gonna be a different kind of person. Might be a little jittery.
So he ends up running for president and against William Jennings Bryan.
Yeah.
So,
and again with the 3 names, didn't work out for him though.
Yeah. No. So William Jennings Bryan is this guy he's this super populist.
Super populist.
And he ends up being basically up to this point, it's kind of been the Civil War is finally starting to fade away as like, the stain on the Democratic Party, basically. Yeah. And I think Grover Cleveland kind of killed that.
Like, all right, guys, it's been 50 years. Can we just move on? But
with Grover Cleveland, he was really fiscally conservative and everything. Not so much populist kind of, but with William Jennings Bryan, they end up running him as kind of just a complete opposite of that wing of the political system and everything. So he runs and he does this entire campaign, real man of the people thing. So he's traveling all over the place. We're kind of at the beginning where presidents are going to kind of start campaigning a little bit more. Before it was like beneath them. Like, why would I campaign? I have,
I have slaves to tend to.
Right. But so he does this whole travel all around the country thing, and he's all passing out a hat. And, hey, give me $1, and I'll give you 2 when I'm elected. So,
I'm once again asking for it.
Yes. There you go. He was the first Bernie.
He's proto Bernie.
Yes. McKinley, on the other hand, though, he didn't make this up, but he was really the one that made it famous, which was the front porch campaign.
Yeah. That's my kind of campaign. Just come, we'll have a snack or something like that.
Yeah, so he sits on this porch in his rocking chair, and then people all around the country go to him. And it seems like such a weird thing that would be successful.
It seems like there's no way that would work. Yeah. You're like, I'm not going over there to see him. You're not even president. You're just a dude.
Yeah.
You're the governor of Ohio. Why would I care? And but it worked. I mean,
I guess it was probably the trains were the new big commodity.
Yeah.
So it's hey, let's do a big road trip on the train and meet the presidential candidate.
Let's go to Cleveland.
Yeah. Woo! I think it was like he ended up meeting over 300,000 people or something, which is a lot of people now, but back then it's like a pretty sizable share of the voter.
That's like everyone.
Yeah.
That's like everyone. They're bringing grandma and the cousins. They're hopping in the truck wagon and they're going to Ohio to meet this elderly gentleman and his nice but secluded wife. And that's another reason too, I think, why his front porch was because his wife was sick, and he was very well known. And I think this is another part of why people really liked him. He's got a sick wife. He's lost both of their kids. She can't really travel very well, and he doesn't want to leave her behind or have someone else care for her, so he does it. And that's an honorable thing to do, and that's something that regular people can identify with. Like, oh, if my husband or wife needed care, and I'm going to be the one to take care of them. That's what I promised. And also, it kind of demonstrates, like, yes, I want to be a politician. Yes, I want to be the president, the most powerful, elected official in the country, really in the Western Hemisphere. Maybe not at this point, but close. Yes, I want to have all this power and authority, but also I am still a normal human that you can identify with. It's sort of like, oh, I'd have a beer with that guy. It's like, well, anyone can drink a beer, but not everyone's going to potentially harm their political aspirations by not going out and campaigning and just relying on people to come to him. It made him metaphorically and literally very approachable.
Yeah.
And I think that I don't think it clearly did pay off for him.
Yeah, there's that side. There's kind of two sides to this, because you have that where it's like, wow, he's so approachable, he's so humble and everything. You have another side too, where, do you know who Mark Hanna
Yes.
is? Okay, so Ohio Senator, he also is McKinley's campaign manager. And this kind of starts the stereotypical Republicans are just in bed with big business thing. And so what Mark Hanna does is, because there's so many, and we've talked about this ad nauseum at this point, but just with monopolies,
it just keeps coming up. I don't know.
Super rich, powerful, trust busting stuff that we're going to be talking about a little bit later. But he ends up getting a ton of campaign donations for McKinley from the Rockefellers and all these people, where it's like, hey, like, maybe you want to write us a decent check and we can give you a good tax break when
we love business. Business is good. Line goes up and to the right. Good business.
Yeah. And so, not saying like McKinley was not his own man, or but it's just kind of like a shift in strategy. And I'll put it on the screen, I can't remember what it is, but the amount of money that they raised for this campaign just completely surpassed William Jennings Bryan. And it's so that also plays a pretty big factor, because William Jennings Bryan is very like, I'm not taking a dime from
all of my campaign donations are less than $20.
Yeah. Right.
And I also have no money in it. So there's a correlation there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Wasn't it McKinley like the first campaign to really popularize like campaign buttons and like memorabilia?
Yes. Like, merch.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And you give them away, you sell them, people buy them to show support. But it does kind of tap into the old human red team versus blue team, my side versus your side. Like, I want to wear a little sticker that says I'm on this side.
It was the first I voted.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Probably stick it to their horses or something. It's the first bumper sticker. I'm sure someone did that. Someone definitely did that. Put up an image of the first bumper sticker on a horse.
Yeah.
File does not exist.
Yeah.
No. But yeah, they run those kind of different campaigns on very different issues. McKinley is very pro protective tariffs, which we have touched on tariffs before. Basically, tariffs are
we're almost done talking about
almost. I mean, almost. Basically, tariffs are just a tax on imported goods, basically raw materials. So
it is the issue in this whole quarter century.
Yes. Because if you want to encourage business in your home country, you need to compete with the rest of the world who have different laws and rules and infrastructures. And it may be cheaper for them to produce steel than it would be for you to produce steel. And you can't compete with that because it's just cheaper for them. So you artificially make it more expensive to do business with foreign companies than buying from domestic companies. That's what a tariff is. The pros of tariffs are that it increases your domestic demand for goods, theoretically. The negative is that it increases the price of those goods, even though you're buying American, because they are still just more expensive than an overseas. That's the main thing. And it's kind of a gamble, and it always kind of sort of works, but also kind of sort of pisses everyone off because everything's more expensive. Yeah. But the concept of a protective tariff is very old, and we wouldn't keep doing it if it didn't kind of usually sometimes work in some way. So, but people don't like being taxed more. People don't like paying more for something they paid less for and are now paying more for no real reason. So it can be a hard sell. And for a populist who is for the common man generally paying less for things, no more tariffs is it's a fair and opposite platform.
Yeah. So he ends up, start pulling maps up here. He actually, both campaigns, he faces William Jennings Bryan both times and beats him both times.
Yeah. Because you can't beat a nice guy.
Yeah. He beats him way more the second time, and part of that is, I think McKinley's presidency was working out really well, but the second time was because he had Teddy Roosevelt out campaigning for him. Okay, so of course you have the North and the South line still going on, but Brian doesn't really talk. There's not really much discussion even about Jim Crow or like Civil War stuff. It really is kind of just so like a rich versus poor dynamic kind of thing. He does like pretty decent, but I think part of the problem is there's just not that many people that live in these like more poor, under industrialized states at this point, versus New York and Pennsylvania and even Ohio. That's where all the money is.
Yeah, it's kind of where the money has always been, except for the slave owners. And now after Reconstruction and Jim Crow, it's like more people have less money, and people always went into the cities to make a living when they couldn't make it as a farmer or in a more rural setting. So it's kind of just it's a migration type thing. They sort of capitalized on a trend that was going to happen.
So McKinley is sworn in, and what do? Go to war.
We shall go to war. Yeah, so basically, we got to talk about Cuba and Spain. So Spain is in Europe, and for basically most of modern history, England, France, and Spain have been the three big players in international, like they're the dynasties. They're the, whatever, pick your sports dynasty. They're the big guys. And Spain has different colonies. One is in Cuba. And they have some in the Philippines, Guam. They have some
Puerto
Rico, other small island chains. But Cuba is the big one, one of the big ones. And they do that because you can grow certain crops and get certain materials and resources on these island tropical places that you can't get in Spain, like sugar mostly. That it fetches a pretty penny, because who doesn't like sugar? But it costs a lot of money and time and manpower to colonize an area that doesn't necessarily want to be colonized and keep the money flowing. And around 8 to 10 years before McKinley gets sworn in, Cuba has been revolting against the Spanish and wanting their independence. They want Spain out, and they want to govern themselves. That,
but it's like a huge. So we get the term concentration camps from this conflict.
Yes.
So yeah, it's one of those like. Maybe obviously Monroe Doctrine is he's gonna play that card, which is basically in layman's terms, U.S. gets this side of the world, and then Europe and everywhere else just stay out of the way, and we won't bother you if you don't bother us.
Basically,
but then you have Cuba that's 90 miles from Florida, and it's like, whoa, okay, this is Spain is kind of a volatile empire.
Well, they're very volatile.
Yeah, and so
they're the Spanish.
Yeah.
and they've been an empire for a long time. It takes a lot of money, and with more industrialization, other nations coming onto the scene, the international stage kind of shifting, it is less and less popular for colonies to exist and take up resources when things aren't going swimmingly in your home country. Or they're going swimmingly for the royals, but not for, whatever. Everyone has an issue, but the time is starting to come. Also, communication is much faster. Mass media is much more prevalent.
Yes.
Which plays a big role into that. Yeah. So, Cuba is revolting. Spain is brutal in putting down the revolts, or trying to, but it doesn't extinguish them completely. Where the U.S. gets involved is American companies. One of the things that a country has to do is protect its ability to do business and commerce and trade. And so American companies and contractors are working with the Cubans and working with the Spanish for sugar, and there's businesses in and around Cuba that have an interest there. And political unrest and concentration camps are bad for business, generally speaking. So initially, they're getting reports of the revolts and the Spanish responses to them. And McKinley is, he's a war veteran, so he is not angling for war. It's costly. It's the human cost is very high. He doesn't have an appetite for war, and he's really trying to stay out of it. But he also realizes that being able to trade freely in a valuable resource is one thing that will make America prosper. So he stays out of it, to the point where a familiar character, Teddy Roosevelt, who is the assistant Secretary of the Navy at this point, says that McKinley has the backbone of a chocolate eclair.
Yeah.
Because Teddy's a go-getter and always has been. And Teddy sees, we'll get more into it, but Teddy sees this as something that America should be involved in now. And McKinley is stalling and won't do it. He's trying to do diplomacy, and Teddy's not He's not about that life necessarily.
Yeah, well, and I think part of it too is the media at this point is really starting to ramp up. So you have what's known as yellow journalism, and they have a very particular slant that they want us to be involved in.
If it leads, it leads, baby.
Yeah.
Even if we gotta make it up.
Yeah, so there's like obviously horrendous things happening.
Bad things did happen.
Yes, but there was making it out even like worse than this is pre-internet, so you just have the picture of the yellow journalist that so yeah, the propaganda, I guess, is like really ramping up, and so public interest is like, yes, we need to go to war here. Everyone's scared because like, what if like Spain does it, and then they come up here? Yeah, they're only 90 miles away from the
we've never
of Florida.
We've never heard this argument before. We have to fight them over there so they don't come over and fight us over here.
Yeah,
we've never heard that since then. So
like I said, this is the start of a lot of new things now.
History doesn't rhyme, but it does do a lot of the same manipulative things to people over and over and over again with the power of the media. But we're not going to talk about that. We're still in the 19th century. So Billy Mack says, all right, fine. We'll send one of our big, beautiful ships down to Cuba, the USS Maine. And the Maine is just going to sort of hang out there off the coast of Cuba and be a big old presence because they got big old guns and a big old American flag. And hey, man, chill with the genocide, okay? Chill with the executions. And then in February of 1898, something terrible happens. The Maine explodes. Literally, just blows up.
Yeah.
Now, there are like modern things still kind of conflict vaguely, but in general, there's two competing narratives as to what happened to the USS Maine. The first one is the Spanish blew it up, which is
very reasonable.
It's reasonable. It's possible.
Time,
It's possible. It's reasonable. It definitely could have happened. The other explanation was there was an internal malfunction within the ship itself that caused some sort of small explosion or fire that set off the internal magazines where all the explosive artillery shells that the ship shoots, the big rooms that hold those. The malfunction started a chain reaction and blew up the ship from just a freak internal accident. Which is
what sells more papers.
Yeah, what will get us to do something cool that we can write about.
Yeah, which I do believe that people genuinely in the media and in the government and stuff was like, oh yeah, clearly Spain blew it up. That's a very easy.
It's means motive and opportunity. Yeah. It's right there. The Spanish are right there. They don't want us to be here. Why wouldn't they blow up one of our ships? And why wouldn't they? That makes sense. Yeah. I can't say that if I weren't an 1898 person in Bumblescum, Iowa, that I wouldn't have read the paper and believed it immediately. Yeah. It makes sense. I think the modern things, which I'm not sure how they could figure that out in modern times because it's been over 100 years, but whatever.
It's kind of like with how it blew up. It's like the shape of the explosion.
That's true.
Happened internally. There's I don't know. I'm not
a scientist. Yeah. I just know that if a thing blows up from the inside, it goes like burr, and if something from the outside hits it, it goes burr. So they think it went burr. And it exploded internally. But that didn't really matter because 300 American sailors were just basically incinerated off the coast of Cuba after we've just spent weeks and months hearing about how terrible and evil Cuba is. Or not Cuba, Spain. And so the papers are smoking, going off the presses, and remember the Maine, to hell with Spain, becomes the slogan. And McKinley is like, all right.
I guess we're in.
Start your engines, boys. We're going to Havana.
So the war gets declared in April 1898. And doesn't last long. This is a pretty forgettable war. For one, I mean, it's like...
Ask the Filipinos.
Yeah, we'll get there. But it only lasts till that August. So it, and like we said, Spain is just not the powerful entity that it
once ain't what was, she used to be. No.
So obviously, huge power dynamic is now shifted with the U.S. being much stronger than even just 100 years ago. And yeah, they end up surrendering Spain. But with all these other colonies, there's kind of the Treaty of Paris, where they basically sit down and go, okay, we surrendered. U.S. is like, okay, fine, great. You need to leave Cuba, and we'll just let Cuba just do its own thing. But we want Puerto Rico, Philippines, Guam, and and we'll just pay off the debt of what was, it was $20 million.
Yeah, it's like $350 or something.
Yeah. And so we end up acquiring that, and then Spain just leaves away and doesn't interfere with the...
Well, they can't. We destroyed their navy in an hour.
Yeah.
Basically. Turns out making ships.
Monroe Doctrine lives on.
The Western Hemisphere is solidly in American hands. Never fear, Cuba, you're totally independent. However, you do have a lot of sugar.
Yeah.
And we did just save you. So let's talk, baby. In the war, I almost said conflict because that's a modern thing where we don't want to say war when it's a war. So in the Spanish-American War, Teddy Roosevelt and his Rough Riders, they are cavalry, and this is the Battle of San Juan Hill, where Teddy Roosevelt becomes like a bona fide war hero, a certified crazy person, but by God it works. So that's like another notch in his legend belt, which will be useful later. Not much later, but later it will be useful. And at the end of the war, it shows two things. Number one, that America is a fully fledged military power on par and potentially greater than the classic military powers that had dominated the world for the past 300 plus years. And second, it's kind of a divisive thing because, okay, America started off as a colony. Why are we, and we hated being a colony so much that we fought the greatest military power in the world to be free. Now, 100 years later, we are colonizing other nations who do not want to be colonized, namely the Philippines, other islands too, but, kind of, you take the good with the bad sometimes, where, hey, you're poor, not really industrialized. If you become one of our territories, you get the benefits of being under the blanket of American protection, and all the good stuff that goes with that. Yeah, you're not you anymore, you're us, but you can do a lot of what you do. And the other flip side of that is, namely in the Philippines, no, we want to be completely independent. We asked you for help to throw off Spain. We didn't want to replace Spain with you. And so we're going to have a whole war about that. So the dichotomy of America becoming a colonial empire now in 4 months, from zero to colonial empire. And a lot of people are mixed on that. They don't like it. Also, McKinley, one of his things was he didn't want to become a colonial power because he felt like it was kind of hypocritical of the nation to be like that. But then when presented with the opportunity and kind of weighing the pros and cons of it is a risk to liberate, and we've just seen it with Reconstruction kind of. There is a risk at, as oppressive and terrible as slavery or colonization is, there is the real risk of, okay, we knock out the foundations of what has kept your society afloat, more or less. We knock those out and say, okay, have fun being self-governing. You haven't had to before, or haven't in a long, long time. Good luck, we're going home. And then that destabilizes the region and also opens the doors to other powers. Maybe France wants a piece of the action. Maybe England wants a piece of the action. Now one of our, not enemies, but adversaries has access to Cuba or another island that has these resources and is also very close to us when they usually had to sail across an entire ocean to get to us. There's a lot of pieces in play. And sometimes you kind of gotta not compromise, I guess it would be compromise. I wouldn't call what we did hypocrisy. I say it was a strategically pragmatic move to take over those territories, because if we hadn't, someone else would have. And this is kind of beginning the whole theme of international relations, like modern international relations, where you have ideas and principles of nations should not interact with each other like this. You can't take over a smaller country because you're bigger. In theory, in principle, very true, very good, very noble. We would all sit at a table and agree that that's true. But in the world that has scarce resources, where everyone's trying to have a deterrent effect, $10 doctor word, deterrent effect on, if I have these resources in this land, then that makes other countries less likely to attack me or try to take my stuff. So everyone's trying to angle for more advantage. And if I don't take this piece of land that I could take on principle, these guys who don't have the same principles as me, or who are willing to compromise them way faster than me, will take it, and now my people and my nation will be at a disadvantage. So it's kind of irresponsible for me to not take advantage of it, to secure my people, is kind of the argument that was made.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a new version of Manifest Destiny.
Yeah.
So we made it from, down to from the Atlantic to the Pacific, and so it's like, okay, well, what now? And so we kind of just cool off everything for a while. Everything we've been talking about through all these episodes, it's all been just domestic.
Yeah.
We really haven't covered barely anything foreign, unless it's like, I mean, the War of 1812 is probably the last episode we did where that,
It's about 100 years ago.
yeah. And so in that time, industrialization and colonization and stuff around the world has just greatly sped up. And so you have countries like Japan and Germany, for example, that have a real strong interest on like, ooh, Philippines, their economy is pretty much just decimated. They're not gonna be able to survive on their own. So we'll just lasso them with us, and then it's like, well, we don't want us, like US doesn't want that to happen, because it's now like the battle of who gets to be the big empire thing. And so it's like, you can either say, nope, George Washington 125 years ago said we need to just do it this way and we just need to stick to it. And it's like, okay, that's fair, but did he know what everything was going to look like a whole century later? Because we can either say, nope, we're just not going to add other colonies and stuff and just be isolationists. And then in the meantime, all these other superpowers are building up, and then they would just end up swallowing us up whole. So that's kind of like the fear behind it and everything. So it's kind of like, well, it's in, whatever. I mean, Hawaii was kind of part of this too, even though it wasn't with the Spanish-American War, but around the same time.
As we were passing by, we're like, hey,
right,
Hawaii.
yeah. So like Hawaii, so Japan and Hawaii, for example, it's like a good example where Japan really wanted to compete more with the U.S. And so being able to work its way through the Pacific and swallow up Hawaii would have damaged the U.S. a lot because of all the economic benefits that we were getting with Hawaii, and well, even more so Hawaii was getting with us.
Right.
There was a ton of trade agreements where they had way cheaper just advantages on with like sugar exports and things like that. And so when McKinley kind of cuts that off with all the tariff stuff going on, they don't get those benefits anymore. And their
Japan starts
economy
looking real sweet.
Right. So then their economy is completely basically becomes shattered. And so, and like, we've already been so involved with Hawaii, and we have like military there, and we're already kind of protecting them from other, like, no, this is our little trade agreement here. You can't come over here. So if we just cut that off, and then it's like, these countries if they can't survive on their own, then it's like, they're just going to get swallowed up by someone else. So
someone will take it.
And I guess that's kind of like the first, I mean, it's really the first case of just like the modern foreign policy thing that we have today. And like, what can we do to benefit our country the best? And obviously it's a slippery slope, because then pretty soon we're just like meddling in everywhere. And
pretty soon we're meddling everywhere.
But you can at least see, like, zoom out and be like, okay, maybe this wasn't just some, we just want to capture.
I hate Hawaiians.
No,
this is.
I mean, they still keep their culture. They still.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
You go to Hawaii, you get a lay. The culture preserved. Pineapples, yes, thank you.
Military protection, economic benefits. When you're a territory, I mean, you're also just kind of like independently governed. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds in a way. And so, but I know Philippines ends up being independent completely in 1946. So that was kind of more a short-lived thing. It was like, I guess, 40-ish years. So, but that's kind of now the new game plan going into the 20th century, which is kind of, when you get into World War I, and it's, well, great, I'm glad we have all these other allies and colonies that we had beforehand to help us that these other countries wanted to get.
Thank God we have so many pineapples. I mean, this is from, and I'll be brief about it, but like even this, like, you zoom out, you see the international relations that you were just talking about. You zoom out even further. Now we can see how, okay, Japan and Germany want Hawaii, and England wants to be friends with us, but they're closer to Germany. So if we want to have good relations with England, then we have maybe, and England needs sugar, and they have to go all the way across an ocean and then to another ocean to get sugar. But we just have to cross like half of one ocean to get to Hawaii, or to Cuba now. So maybe we become better friends with England by giving them special stuff, special prices on our sugar, and help their economy, because we don't like Germany because England doesn't like Germany, and England doesn't like Germany because the Prussian Empire for 400 years has threatened the Visigoths, and then the Holy Roman Empire, and then the Byzantines, so like international relations is very, very strange, and it's like second and third order of, I'm going to do this thing independently, but also to benefit my ally or someone I want to be my ally, so that we can be friends against these guys. But that's going to upset them. So those guys will be friends in some undisclosed, Germany and Japan will become friends maybe sometime in the distant future at this point. But right now, we need to be good friends with England because England has all the money and blah, 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 blah. So there's many, many layers.
And then one domino falls and we're in World War One.
Franz Ferdinand.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll get to it. So yes, we win the Spanish-American War and thus set the stage for the 20th century and the bloodiest, most destructive century in human history so far.
Which Japan will get
Japan will
a
remember this.
huge revenge tale in 1941.
Oh, you want Hawaii, do you? What about Midway?
Yeah. So,
But anyways, meanwhile, back in DC.
yeah, so that's, I guess that's pretty much his,
That's what he does.
yeah, that's really what his legacy is, I guess, is just that whole conflict and just kind of the now modern look at, just, I guess, imperialism, modern foreign policy and stuff like that. But obviously, I think we're kind of starting to see the end of the gold and silver debate.
Gold
pretty
wins.
much. Yeah, so gold wins. So the whole, the gold standard versus the free silver. If you want to, I know we've talked about it before.
Yeah.
I can move on to something else.
No, I'd love to talk about fiat currency. Okay, I'll keep it brief though. Monetary policy. Your money is fake and it's not based on anything except for the United States government or whatever government you're with, saying we'll pay you back this money because we have guns, basically. Our currency is backed by the full faith and credit of the United States government, whatever that's worth to you, and that basically means, yeah, come on, man, we're good for it. We're America. We got it. Prior to like the 70s or 80s, all money was based on precious metals, usually gold, almost exclusively gold. And the reason for that is because there is a finite supply of gold in the world. There's only so much on the planet. It takes a lot of effort to get it out of the ground. And for all of human history, everyone likes the shiny rock. And this is a shiny rock that doesn't rust, and it's oddly heavy for how, for a coin, and it's valuable. So
And I should say also, this was both elections. This was like the main thing with William McKinley and William Jennings Bryan. But it ends up, gold win. He runs on that. Bryan runs on the silver thing 2 times. Does not work out for him. So
not good.
Yeah. So obviously, that's going to be very beneficial to high-end investors and Rockefeller types and things like that. So you can kind of just see
and honestly, money makes the world go round. It does. Wars, trade, products, jobs, everything, it runs on money. And if you start tinkering with how much money people have, there's 2 things you don't mess with in this world: people's money and people's kids. And if you start doing either of those, you're going to find out really quick that you should not have done those things. But money is necessary. It's a necessary evil. It is required in modern times. And so politics, cozying up with big business for you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. I do believe that there are ways that can be above board. It always smells stinky. But if you think about it, if you're a business owner and you want to make more money and have more jobs and blah, 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 and that's generally good, but the government is in charge of making laws that could prevent you or hinder you from creating more jobs and making more money, then you would be really invested in making sure that politicians who more or less align with your values are elected into office. And if you have money that helps them campaign and get into office, then it makes sense that you would give some of that money to that candidate so that you can earn more money. That makes sense. It seems stinky, and in a lot of cases has been and is stinky, because most people don't have $150,000 to give away. So it feels unfair.
Yeah. We'll obviously get way more into that with Teddy and stuff here coming up.
So, but moneyed interest in business and politics being connected is not anything new. There are ways that it can be done above board, but it's very easily abused.
Yeah. He was, I guess, the answer to the Panic of 1893 beforehand. The economy is turning around. Everything's doing, whether you agree with the philosophy or not, it is, in this bubble, is paying off. So I think of something that wasn't a pun, but...
No, there's nothing. Sometimes a pun is the right thing.
So, then, 1901.
What a great year.
And so
we've won the Spanish-American War, and the American Empire is just getting started.
He wins the second election.
Wow.
And then
And we're at the Pan America convention or whatever it was called.
yeah, like so this is kind of what kicks off why we have Secret Service now. In case anyone's watching this at this point, you don't know anything about McKinley. I should kind of tell you a bit about what we're about to get into.
Yeah.
But 1901, he's at
It was like a meet and greet event at the Pan American Conference
in New York.
in New York.
So he's got all these, and he was known for staying longer than normal to still meet all his fans.
He's a bit of a chatty Cathy.
Yeah, so
Maybe he shouldn't have been.
yeah.
This is the cautionary tale. When it's leaving time, it's leaving time.
Yeah. So he's there, and he's, I mean, there's still like bodyguards and stuff, but it's not like Secret Service of how we know it today. And there's a huge line of people, and one of them is none other than Leon Czolgosz. And
Those Polish names.
he shows up. He's this anarchist. We can talk about him a little bit here soon. But and he
What a loser.
Yeah. He has this idea. When I mentioned the Panic of 1893, someone who kind of saw that as, oh my gosh, like, look at what happens when we have powerful people running our lives, and just real kind of generic kind of anarchism and everything.
Yeah.
So he decides that the
resolution.
best way, it's not like because he just like hates McKinley, it's just because he's the one in power for this, and he decides to assassinate him, unfortunately very successfully. But he's someone who he joined up with Emma Goldman, who's this Russian Jew who kind of led these small like underground groups about anarchy and communism and just this whole philosophy,
Which doesn't make sense if you think
everything.
about it for 5 seconds. I hate all forms of government, but I also want the government to be in charge of all means of production. I think the determining factor is I want to be in charge of everything.
Yeah.
And no other form of government other than me being in charge is is good. And I'm using the spatula to articulate the point.
Yeah,
And she wasn't even hot either. Like I could.
They never are.
They never are. Show me a hot communist. You won't find one. You won't. Search the internet. Put that in your Google search history. It's like these 12 hot communists. Yeah, that's about the brain power you would need to.
Communist thirst traps.
Now you're on a watch list.
Yeah.
Another watch list.
So she, what am I?
She was ugly in a commie, and she got this dude to shoot
Yes.
McKinley.
So he ends up, he shows up and he has this. Oh, was it like a 30?
It's a 32.
Yeah. Okay. So he's got it wrapped up.
That's a little prostitute gun.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, point blank wrench. Yeah. And he's got this fake bandage on, like he's broke his hand or whatever.
Not even a good discussion.
Yeah.
Hello, Mr. President. I would like to shake your hand, sir. With my little prostitute gun. I mean, not that. Chow chow. Oh no, we need Secret Service. Too many presidents keep getting shot.
Yeah.
Turns out this job is really dangerous. Like
I mean, yeah,
15% of presidents have been assassinated.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's been less than 40 years with 3 assassinations at this point. And so,
Not a good
he
win
goes up
rate.
to shake his hand and then, pulls out,
Ta-ta.
shoots him twice. And he, at first, it's interesting, McKinley's response, there's a couple things he said that were
Ow.
interesting. Well, it was, oh my gosh, make sure my wife is okay.
Mm-hmm.
And also, hey, go easy on him. Don't
Don't murder him in the
Yeah.
street. Don't stomp this
So-
poor crazy person out.
And it's something where if this happened today, he would have survived his wounds, but because of just
It's the dirty hand doctor
Yeah.
crew. Just
the James Garfield.
just lick your fingers and start
Yeah.
digging in people's wounds.
So he ends up still surviving, but for 8 days, and then he passes away, unfortunately. So he ends up getting a big infection. He was kind of starting to recover, and then
I'm feeling much better.
yeah. So Leon gets the electric chair. So pretty early example of the electric chair.
We just figured out how to get electricity into the city. You know what we should do? Hook it up to a chair and kill people with it.
Pretty much.
Sure. I don't know. What kills people? Guns, fire, electricity. Try that one. Yeah.
So then Theodore Roosevelt comes in. He was kind of picked as a, we'll get more into it. I don't want to spend too much time with him right now, but the reformer part of the party. You got the two wings of the Republican Party, like the pro-business and the pro-people. You can define it however you want, but he ends up picking Teddy as to kind of like, okay, he's too much a reformer. Let's just get him out of the way, have him be vice president, have him do nothing, basically. And so once
Which, if they had known anything about Teddy Roosevelt, you can give Teddy Roosevelt a pile of rocks, and he'll become the chief of police.
All it took was an anarchist. So,
Yeah. Well,
and then, yeah, I mean, that's unfortunate. I mean,
yeah.
Only a actual one-term president, basically. He was only 6 months into his second term.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's like I said at the beginning, he seemed like a genuinely good person who, you know, what more could you ask for as a president? Hey, I want the country to do well. I don't want to get us into any wars. Okay, a war is at the doorstep. Okay, well then if we're going to do a war and we're going to be faced with all these international relation things, I know that's not what we want, but I have to make the best decision for the country, like now and hopefully into the future. He cared for his wife. I mean, yeah, he's a good guy. And
yeah, that's right. And she, because I mentioned earlier with her, with Ida, she loses both her kids and her husband. I know she ends up having some pretty major mental problems for the rest of her life.
Yeah, you're about done at that point, if you weren't already. So yeah, it's a sad story. It is, and it's sad that he's kind of overlooked for Teddy, but very important, very critical to the 20th century and the American Empire. Is it okay to say that now? The American Empire? Having military bases in 100 countries qualifies as an empire.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's I can't remember where I saw it, but it was like the other face that should be on Mount Rushmore, or like something.
I don't know about that.
Like his, yeah,
I mean, better than Grant.
I just think Grant's not on the Mount Rushmore though.
No.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying
no. It would be better that it would better be him, then it would make more sense. But
I think it's just the idea of I mean, especially just the imperialism side, or just the foreign policy side, which is like not even what he wanted to do. He wanted to be president just to like help the economy, and he was, 1893, the Panic of 1893, kind of a response to that, and ended up being remembered for something completely different than so. And then